present data analytics and data
Today, as a beginner session, Rashid and Jeremy and I chatted about what we'd like to cover today, and we thought, well, what are some of our favorite beginner questions? And my favorite beginner question is always something that starts out in the lines of, well, I can do this thing in Excel. How do I do that in Tableau? Or, you know, show me how to do this thing in Excel in Tableau. And it's a very common experience for data folks like ourselves or analysts to have grown up using Excel and spreadsheets and then be under the impression that you can translate that one-to-one. And to some extent you can, but for the most part, making that transition, it also involves accepting the fact that Tableau is a different kind of tool. Excel is treated like real estate. You can do cell-based formulas, and you can take a cell from column X in row 250, and then multiply it by column B, row 12. Yeah, that's thinking of data in terms of real estate, and that's not how Tableau works. So Tableau is much more closely aligned to database principles, thinking in terms of columns or fields of data and records. And those, they don't have any physical real estate location. There's simply the column exists, and you can add a column, you can aggregate a column, or you can do a record level calculation. So one column times another column, that kind of thing. So that's probably the biggest transition to make. I posted this thought out to LinkedIn, and I got a couple of responses. One person, Greg Lewandowski in Raleigh, he said, when making that transition from Excel to Tableau, it's important that you think about the outcome. So don't think, I think his analogy was, you can take a left-hand turn on a street, and you can take that left-hand turn in a car or a motorcycle or in some other kind of vehicle, but the way that you take that left-hand turn is different in each of those. So the technique is different, but the outcome or the objective is the same. So being mindful of that is going to help you go far. Another person, Natalie Wiseman, she said, remember that you can Google anything. And that's a really key point when you're just starting out, is that you're Google any term that you can think of and then add Tableau to the end of it. And there are at least a dozen of our fellow community practitioners who have written a blog post or have offered something on a knowledge base or a forum to help answer that question. Those are excellent resources to leverage whenever you're learning Tableau. I think one of my favorite points to remember, though, is as you're making this journey, as you're in this journey, is that you shouldn't go it alone. You shouldn't sit at your desk by yourself and try to figure everything out by yourself. It's important to be a member of a community, and if that's in your workplace where you may have a center of excellence around analytics or Tableau itself, then that's a great place to leverage. User groups are another great way to be able to meet people and find partners in your community whom you can drop an email to, or give a call and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what is a table calculation. And talking through it is probably sometimes when you're Googling something, you have to know what phrase you're looking for. So that's going to be tough if you don't know the phrase or the keyword. But having someone you can talk to, being a member of a community like this user group, that's going to go a long way to helping you learn Tableau. I think those are some of the most salient points about that transition from Excel to Tableau and overcoming the initial learning curve hurdle. This is a topic that's never going to go away. We're always going to have partners, and so it'll probably be part of our conversation going forward. And it's always something worth discussing and helping people to overcome that learning curve hurdle. So we'll come back to this sometime. As with the points that I raised, would love to hear more from everyone on the phone. If you've got other ideas, everyone has access to our community site, community.tableau.com. That's our forum for asking questions. You can also, it's also a place where sometimes employment opportunities are posted. So be on the lookout and be aware of that site. There's a lot of great stuff out there. with that, we do have our two co-leads, Rashid Manat and Jeremy Poole, who are going to provide some of their insights and some of their favorite questions. And first, we're going to have Rashid share his thoughts with us. So, Rashid, would you like to take over?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Hello to everyone. My name is Rashid Manat. Let me know when you can see me. Hopefully you guys can see me. Hopefully you guys are doing good out there.
We're with you.
Okay. Basically, first off, let me to piggyback off William said. I think the easiest way to do this is to give you guys this. Virtually all of our information is consolidated in some shape or form at that URL. usergroups.tableau.com/Charlotte is where I would send you, because that will have the links. That is the link to our event page. That's actually, as a matter of fact, I'll leave that up for a second, but in a second I'll show you what that page is. But all of our future events can be found on that particular page. In addition, the community forum, the links for that William was describing, the links for that are also on this page. Our YouTube channel, again, links for that are on this page. Contact information for all of us, including our Tableau public profiles and things it's all on this page. So anything that we ever produce, one way or another, you can get to by just that one URL right there. So if there's any URL you want to bookmark, that's probably the best one. And again, it's usergroups.tableau.com/Charlotte. So with that, I'll kind of get into William's point about some of the things that, to me, in the beginning, Ryan Sleeper, who's a Tableau Zen master, has a really good blog post out there. And it's called like the 5 things I wish someone would have told me at the beginning of my Tableau journey. And it's really, really good. And I'll put the link out for that blog post as well. But, for me, in retrospect, there are 3 things that always come to mind when it comes to what I feel are the most important topics when it comes to your Tableau journey in the beginning. And to me, one of the first ones that I think I overlooked was the Tableau order of operations. I can't stress to you how important this is, because it plays out in a lot of different ways as you get better and better and better in Tableau. And I'm actually showing you 2 different versions of this order of operations, because one of them is right and one of them is wrong. And it's only just because of timing. The one on the right used to be right. The one on the left is now what is right. And they both look pretty much the same, but if you notice, data blending. Data blending seems to come after dimension filters on the left, yet data blending seems to be before dimension filters on the right. The difference between these 2 visualizations is, I believe the one on the right was created back in 2015. The one on the left, I believe, is accurate as of today. This is what I mean. I don't even want to necessarily get into every single one of these items in the order of operations, but this is a topic where this isn't static, meaning you learn this once. It doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily ever change again, because it does. Meaning that what you were good with back in 2017 because you understood it now is a little bit different than what it used to be. And this is one of those topics that, again, it does play out. I can't stress to you enough how many times I find myself trying to remember if a filter that's on a blended data source is going to be before or after a table calculation or a measure filter or an LOD calculation. And these are all advanced topics, but again, this simple visualization, it ties back to it one way or another. This is what I have to kind of keep falling back on. So if you're in the beginning of your Tableau journey, spend an extra 5 to 10 minutes to try to understand every component of this order of operations. Just like I said, you don't have to be an expert, but it just helps you in general to kind of understand that flow, why one thing comes before another. And the more you get comfortable with this, I would say the more you'll have it'll better prepare you for all of the other topics that come down the road. This is a topic that I did not pay enough attention to in the beginning. And I wish I did, because it would have saved me a lot of time and a lot of headache. And on that topic, another topic that I wish I spent more time in the beginning was actually the concept of dimensions and measures and discrete values versus continuous values. Again, this is also the same Ryan Sleeper blog post, and I just took a screenshot from it. But again, this is a good blog post. I'll put the link out, in the chat in a second. But it's just basically describing the difference between dimensions and measures, because again, there's a fundamentals behind dimensions and measures that are, you really have to understand that a measure really is just, it's that aggregate value. Like I said, we won't get into too much of the details, but the measure is more of an aggregation, where a dimension is more of an independent variable. It doesn't have to make sense right now. It's one of those things I'm telling you, take an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour to kind of play around with the concept, read as much as you can about it, read blog posts, go to YouTube. The more you understand, the easier it will become. And in the same context, discrete and continuous values, truly understanding not just what a discrete value is and what a continuous value is, but understanding that Tableau will treat those fundamentally different. Meaning that if you drag a discrete value into your visualization, it's going to create a visualization that's fundamentally different than a continuous value. And I say that because I might be talking about the exact same field. Meaning the same field, the same value, when you drag it in as discrete, will create a different visualization than when you drag it in as continuous. If you want an example of that, do it with dates, because dates can be discrete or continuous, and you'll see that, like I said, it creates something different depending on which of those two it is. So these are just two topics, three topics in total, that if you're at the beginning of your Tableau journey, this is where I would spend the most time, because these three things are fundamental to everything else. And on that note, like William said, if you have any questions or anything like that, put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A. We'll kind of get to them kind of as we can. I just want to kind of use this to kind of show you some of the, really some of the URLs that I think, to me, were very valuable. And we'll put links to all of these URLs in the chat, and we'll also kind of send them to you guys after the call. But again, this is our actual, this is the usergroups.com, I'm sorry, usergroups.tableau.com Charlotte webpage. Again, like I said, it has links to all of our upcoming events. Even though these events are going to be virtual in the future, we'll still have all this information here. It has our contact information, it has our YouTube channel information, and it has our community forum information. And again, for those who've never seen, this is the actual community forum. You guys can go out here and then get time. You can kind of post, your own kind of comments, job posting, things of that nature. This is really for you. And it's a good resource in general. In addition, we do have our YouTube channel. And again, we post all of our meetings and all the content that we produce will kind of be out here as well. So we try to get as much content out to you as possible. And hopefully we'll be able to produce more, now that we're all kind of stuck at home. But when it comes to some of these blog posts, again, don't worry about copying these down now. We will provide them to you going forward. But again, this is a very, very good blog post on the order of operations. The data school did a really good job of kind of explaining kind of, exactly what each component is and why it's kind of important. This is what I was talking about. This is part of that blog post from Ryan Sleeper about dimensions versus measures. Again, this is a good resource to use. And again, the same thing I said before, the 5 things I wish I knew when I first started on my Tableau journey. This is another good blog post by Ryan Sleeper, kind of breaks down to him what was the most important things he learned along the way. This is a good blog post because this is actually, what Interworks did here, they broke down they gave you a breakdown of all of the chart types that are available in the Show Me section. So if you're just getting started, please know that these are not the only types of dashboards that you can build. Tableau kind of just gives you, 16 or however many there are that you can start with. You can build way more dashboards than what you see here, but they're a good kind of starting resource. And what they've done here is they literally give you kind of, the ability to learn a little bit more about each one of them. So each one of these, links is clickable, and then you can learn kind of what a text table is, kind of how it would be used, things of that nature. So it's a really good blog post to use, and again, we'll provide the links, like I said, I'll do it in the chat when I'm done and when Jeremy's talking, but we'll also provide them to you after the call. This is a very good blog post, in my opinion. This is more of the conceptual, what Tableau is versus what Tableau is not. It's very easy to describe what Tableau is. I think this does a good job of describing what Tableau is not. Tableau is not a data creation tool. Tableau is not a tool that you should be using. If data creation or modeling or novel scenarios is your primary need, this might not be. And there are a lot of examples of this where Tableau is not going to be the right tool for every job. It really depends on what it is you're trying to do. And sometimes you'll be successful and sometimes you won't. So this is good to give you a fundamental understanding of once you do learn Tableau, you really now kind of get brought to a crossroads, which is that is Tableau going to be able to help you do whatever it is you're trying to achieve? Because again, the answer will not always be yes. But this is a good, very good blog post. This is one of the oldest Tableau-related tool tips. Tips I think that at least I know of, and still valuable today. Andy Kriebel, and one of the best Tableau tips ever. This shows you in a nutshell how to take your Tableau dashboard and export it to Excel in a way that's a lot prettier, and better than what I'd say is the default CSV type of export. You can have the columns ordered the way you want it. You can have it look the way you want it, and you can have the whole thing triggered off of like an icon press, meaning it could be like a little Excel icon. They click it, and it just gets exported, into Excel the way they want it to. This is a very old blog post, and I'll be honest with you, still use it today. It's a good resource. Now, Tableau's got much better. If you're on like Tableau 2019 to Tableau 2020, I think there are probably much better ways to do exporting now. But if you're on Tableau 2018 or older, this is still just as valuable as it ever was back when it came out. This is very good. This is the actual the visual dictionary, the financial. I'm gonna say financial. I believe I just call it the visual vocabulary. This is on Tableau Public. And for those who don't know, Tableau Public, to me, and I'll kind of segue for a second, is probably one of the best resources when you're starting your Tableau journey. Tableau Public is free. I can't stress that enough. I can't stress that enough. It is, put it to you this way. I got really, really good when I started building in Tableau Public. There was no other way around it, because you're going to build what your company or what your job needs you to build, with respect to Tableau at your employer. But once you kind of remove that lens and you just start thinking of it as visual storytelling and kind of trying to tell stories with data, then there's no more, constraints. And now you're really trying to build dashboards that, again, there's no limits. You can build whatever it is you want to build, how you want to build it. This is where you'll get kind of inspiration. If you don't have a Tableau Public profile, create one. If you don't know who to follow on Tableau Public, follow one of us and look who we follow, and then follow them. Kind of how I started. I didn't know any Zen masters when I started. Some of these people I still don't know today, but I'd be very impressed with some of the stuff that they create. Give you an example. David Borzig, I was just looking at something he created the other day. And this is what I mean, that you will see people who create very, very, very good visualizations. And it's not until you kind of see for yourself that you're like, okay, now I've seen such and such. Now I'm kind of inspired. Now I'm going to go out there and build, a dashboard based upon what I just saw the other day, because again, I could tell you about all the cool stuff you can do in Tableau, but until you actually start to see it, and you see some of the stuff that people are doing and you see how they're building visualizations and you're like, yes, this is all possible. This is all Tableau. And again, you can download some of these workbooks and kind of reverse engineer them to see how people did what they did. This truly was where I said, okay, now I get it. I need to start looking at what other people are doing and learning kind of like, from reverse engineering and even asking questions and things of that nature. But this is, to me, is really where it started to change. And it was like, okay, I'm starting to understand that Tableau Public is a much better resource than I originally thought it was. But the visual vocabulary, again, we'll share this link. This is a good Tableau dashboard because what it does, it kind of shows you which type of visualizations are best for which types of topics. So if we just look at deviation, you're going to see what now it's showing you. If you're trying to do something related to deviation, a diverging bar chart, a diverging stack, it shows you the type of visualizations you should use depending on kind of, what it is you're trying to achieve. And again, this is on Tableau Public, and I believe this is downloadable. Actually, it's not, but still, it's a good resource to use because again, just like I said, change over time. It's showing you kind of what type of visualizations are meant to be used for what type of, analysis you're trying to do. And on that note, there's just one other one, and it's 7 tips and tricks from dashboard experts. And these are kind of high level, steal like an artist. At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with learning from what other people have done. Take what someone else has done and make it better. And kind of avoid clutter. Use white space, things of that nature. These are really, really good tips. Use them all the time. And again, I'll put links to all of these different things that I showed here today in the chat as soon as I'm done. And we'll also, I believe, send them to you guys in an email just so you have them. But I'm going to kind of wrap up with that. And I believe Jeremy is also on the call. I think is, Jeremy, are you out there? Let me make sure he's ready before we switch over. Okay, maybe he's not ready. William, are you out there?
I'm here. I'm just on mute.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. So I'm going to take up, like I said, I'll put all of these links out in the chat window, and then I'm going to let Jeremy take over from here.
Yeah, just wanted to run through a couple of the same kind of things as Rashid. I've also pulled together a couple of things that are my favorites. Let me pop these guys open real quick. All right. All right, and I will share my screen. All right. On the way. So, you know, a couple of the, similar to Rashid, there have been a couple of blogs that I love to circle back to and that I love to share with other folks on my team when they're first starting out with Tableau. You know, level of detail calculations are one that are exceptionally confusing until you start working with them on a more regular basis. Let's see, hang on, I'm not actually sharing. Now I am, I think. Can everybody see my screen okay or no?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. Magnificent. All right, wrong screen though. Here we go. Meant to share the other screen. So now you can see the web page.
I think we may still be looking at a beautiful island somewhere.
Beautiful island. Oh man.
We're seeing your Mac.
Let me try that one more time. I've got too many screens here. All right, we'll try it one more time. All right, you should see a web page now.
We do, VizWiz.
Magnificent, thank you. Appreciate the tech check there. So yeah, so one of the most impactful features that Tableau released in recent years was LODs. With that comes some complexity in how you think of your data and the structure of your data. So Andy Kriebel, who we've talked a little bit about in the past and also today, he did this really cool thing both for LODs and table calcs where he tried to just explain them using an English sentence, right? So for each customer name, region, and product category, compute the distinct count of orders. So what that's saying is it's telling you at what level you want to calculate it, even if it's not the level of the view. So LODs are something that you will likely encounter very quickly in your Tableau journey if you haven't already encountered the need. What they allow you to do is present a different level of aggregation than is present in your view. Really, really powerful tool. There's a couple of different varieties between fixed, include, and exclude. So this is a really great tool there. Again, we'll share all of these. We just want to kind of highlight some of our favorite resources that are quick go-tos for learning how to do things in Tableau. And then we'll move into more of the open Q&A shortly. The second one that I wanted to share with you today this is more of a read than something I can highlight quickly. So as you become a more effective practitioner of data visualization, you'll want to learn a little bit more about color theory and how color really can start to tell a story impactfully. So this is a fantastic blog from Bridget, who I actually had the opportunity to talk with yesterday on a conference call, which is just awesome. It's great to catch up with her. But this is a great blog from her on how you can use color to communicate better. And that's the irony there, is that she'll also talk about the effective use of white space and when not to color, so that when you do, it is more impactful. So what we color, some universal concepts of color, when it means something, when it's best not to use color, etc. Great resource for starting to understand how to effectively leverage color encoding in your visualizations. She's very wise on the subject, and certainly think this will be a useful tool for you. The last thing I just wanted to highlight today that I brought was from Ryan. So, some of you have been with the group a while, know we've talked about sheet swapping and effective UI and all of that. So a lot of those elements in Tableau, you start to build some dynamic aspects into your dashboard. So the ability to change the type of view that's displayed or change the metric that's displayed. Ryan has taken a new look at the age-old concept of sheet swapping in Tableau, starting to use some of the new layout features to do it in a pretty sleek way. So if you've ever wondered the terminology here, you've got sheet popping and swapping would be the Tableau terms for dynamically hiding and showing different visualizations based on a toggle or a condition. So a lot of cool little UI tricks you can add in to build better visualizations, more impactful visualizations. All of these things will help you start to take that step from learning Tableau to learning how to communicate with data visualization to becoming that effective communicator of data in your organization, becoming data fluent. I hope that you'll find a lot of these resources helpful. These are just the beginning. The Tableau community, which you're a part of through this, has been incredibly generous over the years. You don't necessarily see that around other tools where folks are so willing to share their experience with learning how to do something. And some of it more practical than others. You'll find tons of blogs on building really, really complex charts that you'll probably never need in a business setting, but they're there. People are very willing to share and very knowledgeable and passionate about the subject. So very, very robust content around Tableau. I hope that you'll, if you feel at all intimidated or you can't figure out how you want to ask the question for what you want to do, there's the Tableau forums, there's all of these blogs. Rashid, William, and I are always happy to respond. You can hit us up on Twitter or LinkedIn, email if you've got it, if you've got our emails, et cetera. We're always happy to engage and try to help you find a resolution. So there's a ton of content buried in these links that we've shared today. We could not possibly cover every single one of these scenarios in great detail. We just wanted to start to share resources. Now that pretty much everybody's working from home, it's nice to have a one-stop shop of some go-to resources for Tableau. So we hope that this will help kind of set that baseline for you. That's all that I had. It looks like we've got a couple questions, or Rashid's been sharing links. Attaboy, Rashid. But yeah, so I'd love to open it up for Q&A. If you've got a question, we're happy to work through it. We can screen share, we can do whatever, same as we've done at our beginner meetings in person. Just kind of pop your questions either into the chat or the Q&A section directly here in Zoom. And we'll, we're happy to work through some things. If it's something we can answer in the chat, we'll probably try to do that. If it's something we need to demo or walk through or explain, we're happy to do that as well. I just want to give you guys the floor now. This is your time. This is our favorite time of the Q&A. We never know what we're going to get, so we're all very on edge.
Yes, this is William. Yeah, anyone who has a question for us today? We've got many familiar faces in the participant list today. So if you would like to ask the question, you can there's a raise hand feature that allows you to, we'll unmute your audio. We'll give everybody a minute to think about that. So Jeremy and Rashid, I'm sure we'll also take these links that you prepared and we'll put them onto our community site. We'll put a post out there so people can check out the site and see them there. Those were really some fantastic links that you shared today. Thanks for sharing those, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody here in the group has all of my go-tos as well. There are still tons of times that, you know, even 5-6 years into using Tableau full time, I'm still I'm either interested in seeing how someone else approached a challenge, or I just legitimately don't know how to do it. And you know, Google Foo can get you there.
Jeremy, that's a great point. One of the earlier points I raised was the importance of not going it alone. You know, making friends in the community. By the way, we can't see your video, Jeremy. FYI. Yeah, so making friends that you can call up and ask questions, that you can hit them up for an easy question. Being a member of a community, either at your workplace or in the user group.
Yep.
Okay. So
Looks like, yeah, while we're waiting.
I mean, we can start calling on people.
Yeah, I know.
I actually went through the participant list to see if I wanted to embarrass anyone with calling them out.
Well,
But
I have a question while we're waiting for questions.
Yes.
And this is really more for the audience because now, ironically, we're in a position now where we're in 2020. And I always joke with Jeremy about this. I feel bad, but a lot of us aren't on the same version of Tableau, and that's always been the case. But there comes a point where we are probably going to have to start at least acknowledging, if not teaching, a lot of new features. And I know for us who work at Wells Fargo, we're still on 2018.3. So we've got to start to talk about some of the stuff that's in 2019 and 2020, or at least I feel like we do. But
Yeah.
I know that, you know, the question is, I guess, for our audience, are any of you on the newest versions of Tableau, or are most people still using older versions?
Feel free to pop it in the chat, and we can start to take maybe a little survey.
Looking through our attendee list, we see we've always got a lot of folks from Wells Fargo and Bank of America. I think those companies are still on 2018.3.
B of A, I believe, is on 19 something at this point, but I can't quite recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's in
Thank you,
2019.
John. Appreciate that. Oren, thank you.
So that could be a good benchmark to start at least calling out so it's a little bit of a variety.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2020. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really exciting stuff in the newer versions. You know, in the 19 versions, you've got set and parameter actions. In 2020, we're starting to talk dynamic parameters and starting to talk about viz animations, which is a whole new can of worms. You know, we generally try to balance the content for this session to the more practical and use case centric. But yeah, in the formal speaker meetings that we have quarterly, we'll certainly want to start tackling some of the newer features that are available. Awesome. We've got a raised hand.
Okay, let's have it.
Joel, have at it.
Let's see. How do we make?
Do we need to unmute Joel, or does he unmute himself?
We may need Alyssa's assistance with unmuting Joel.
He'll have to unmute himself.
Okay.
Joel, if you'll unmute yourself, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Might take some time for him to connect to audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jeremy and Rashid, what are some of your, Jeremy, you mentioned dynamic parameters.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get started using that. I haven't had an opportunity to use it yet, but what are some of your other favorite newest features?
Parameter actions. Yeah, I'm foaming at the mouth to use parameter actions. And for those of you who haven't used parameter actions, and maybe Jeremy, I feel like that's a game changer. That will allow me to do so many things that I could never do before. And even something as simple as show hide containers. I mean, that was one of those ones that I'm still waiting for. And it's like, I've already built up mock-ups of what I want to do with those functions so that I can show them the business partners. This is what I mean by Tableau Public being so valuable. I can show people in Tableau Public what I will be able to do for them in 6 months. So it's kind of like, while you're planning this out, let's not plan it out with what Tableau does today in 2018.3. Let's plan it out with what we know is coming. And we know how it's going to work because we've already mocked something up, you know, not with real data, obviously, with sample data, but we've mocked up the visual, you know, like I said, in something like Tableau Public, because it really kind of allows my business partners to see what is coming for them. So they can kind of say, oh, if you can do that in the future version of this report, then let's start talking about how we're going to build all of those future reports. And like, we're kind of getting ahead of the game because we know exactly what's coming when it finally does get rolled out at our company.
Yeah, and I think both of the features that Rashid's talking about here they go a long way towards building additional interactivity into the UI of your dashboards. So with parameter actions, with set actions, with dynamic parameters, they really allow you to start to build a significant number of new UI features that are more familiar to your users who are familiar with web, just using like websites and toggles and clicking things and expecting certain things to happen. So that's not necessarily the base intention for set actions and parameter actions. Are really just meant to pass values into calculations and into other sheets, similar to what a dashboard action does. But what the incredibly creative Tableau community has done is just take that and run with it, creating, you know, brand new ways to build timelines or ways to build date filters. Just a lot of really, really creative people with time on their hands building a lot of really cool stuff that you can start to integrate. Joel, are you still on mute? Yeah, looks like it. Saw the other question. Yeah, if you're unable to select and copy the links, we are going to send all of those out. I don't think we can pay. Rashid, can we put them directly on the YouTube page? We can't put them in like a check. I don't think we can we?
No, we can't put them on YouTube, but yeah, we can put them on our usergroups.tableau.com page.
Yeah, we can publish them all out there.
Yeah, we'll get them up there. One way or another, you can go to that link and we'll call, you know, kind of where to go to actually get those links. But we'll get them out there by the end of the day.
Yeah, and again, these are just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you know, you'll even notice that some of these are you know, a couple years old, still really valuable. The basics are the basics. There's tons of new content that's come along, tons of new bloggers, new people, new sites. Some really, really interesting stuff in the world of Tableau. Do we have oh, no, we don't have a question. Never mind.
Okay. Well, I think we've provided an opportunity to ask questions. I'm very excited that everyone knows their Tableau. And actually, there is a question. Monica has just provided a question to us. Can we connect to RSS feeds in Tableau and create visualizations based on what is being discussed in the news? That is a great question. Can an RSS feed be used as a data source?
Directly, no.
Let's see, an RSS feed is going to be an XML file, right? Would a web connector be an option? Maybe you'd have
with
to build
a lot of code. You're generally going to need some sort of intermediate source, whether it's a data preparation tool to extract that payload and put it into a format that a BI tool can consume.
That is a great, timely question.
Good idea.
You
could do it with Python as well.
With Python.
If you happen to know Python, I know that's not necessarily true of everyone, but
yeah, with just a URL. RSS feeds are typically provided by a URL, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head to how you would incorporate
there would not be an out-of-the-box no-code solution. You would 100% need code.
I suppose and XML files are even a bit challenging. I don't even know if we can do an XML file directly. Pass JSON through Jupyter Notebooks. Monica, you are a whiz here. That That's very fascinating. So a few months ago, we did a session on using some other tools like Matillion to ingest data and then parse it. And Matillion and Snowflake, those are two of my favorites. Those are my personal favorites. They have a lot of capability to ingest JSON data and then parse that. But again, it would not necessarily be via a Jupyter notebook. It would just be the JSON data ingested into a database and then flattened or parsed into a typical database table. So you're still going to, do we know if Tableau Prep handles XML files or JSON files? I have not had a chance to use too much Tableau Prep yet.
No, it does not.
Okay, it does not. Great follow-up, Monica.
If we have a question from Daniel Hill.
Yeah, I was typing an answer to that.
Okay.
Why don't what's the question?
So Daniel has asked, with LODs, do you need to consider the dimensions not in the view? For example, a fixed LOD will ignore the dimensions in the view, but what about the dimensions not in the view? So a fixed LOD will ignore, ignore is the wrong way to think of it, I think. So with a fixed LOD, you're telling it, regardless of whether other dimensions are in the view or not in the view, these are the only dimensions you need to consider for this calculation. And include LOD does consider what's in the view and allows you to add additional dimensions for consideration. So let's say you're looking at a view that's by country and state, but you want to calculate something including zip. You would use an include to make sure that zip is included in the aggregation point. Or if you're looking at something by country and state and you only want your calculation to consider country, you would use an exclude on state. Because it's in the view, but you don't want it to be considered. Exclude is entirely, or I'm sorry, fixed. Fixed does not matter what's in the view or not.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'll share. Give me a second, guys. Because while you were talking, I was kind of mocking up exactly what that would look like.
Yep, go for it. And I'll monitor the Q&A in the chat.
So to Jeremy's point, hopefully that comes across. This is kind of what Jeremy was describing. While you were talking, I just basically went ahead and just mocked up just a calculation. This is a sample Superstore data, and I'll try to stretch this out so you can see what I did. I just created a calculation, and that calculation is just fixed sum of sales. So this is fixed. This is an LOD expression. And to Jeremy's point, it's fixed on state. So what's happening is it's literally saying, I don't care about any other field in the database, I'm sorry, in your data source or in the view. All I'm ever going to show is the sum of sales at each individual state. So to Jeremy's point, it's only focused, it's fixed at the state level. So as you can see, where I brought that in, it stays the 19,511 for Alabama for every city because it's fixed at the state level, where the regular sales one is actually showing you what the value is per cities on the breakdown. So it wouldn't matter what I had in the view. It doesn't matter what else is over here in dimensions. As far as fixed is concerned, you are literally fixing your aggregation at that level.
State is the only thing that exists in this scenario.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is important because to that point, like if I had things in filters or anything, it wouldn't matter. I can put a bunch of filters in here. It's still going to be fixed at state. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what you bring or don't bring in. You're basically calculating it before you do anything. It's like it's fixed at state, and then you can start building your visualization. So let us know if that makes sense. A good question.
And so in this example, Rashid, if you changed fixed to exclude city, you should get the same answer in this scenario. Yeah, it just switched places.
Yep.
So what the exclude is doing is it's saying, hey, even though you're showing this by state and city, I only want you to to calculate this. I'm sorry, even though you're showing this at state and city, I don't want you to consider city in the sum calculation. So in this specific scenario, you end up in the same place with a fixed and an exclude. But if you changed any of the dimensions here that are visible, you'd get a different product. And you could also have it, you know, you could add in, you could make it an include and add something like postal code and change the sum to an average. That would probably be a better way. You're not going to see any difference with the sum. And so this is going to take, yeah, just, you can just replace city with postal code.
Oh, gotcha.
Just since it's not in the view. And you would see that, you know, you'll end up with a different answer as you cycle through the options here. So you'll see that for each city, you're going to get the same answer. I think we used text wrong here, but it's okay. It's all good.
So Jeremy, Daniel did have a follow-up asking if it's possible to do multiple LOD calc within the same formula. Did you speak to that?
Where did it go?
It might be in the answer.
Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Yes, you can definitely write nested LOD calculations. It gets fun.
Fun is a nice way to say it. For me personally, it's still table calculations and LOD calculations. They still require quite a bit of trial and error. I'm sure that there's a principle involved where we could articulate when an LOD ends up being a Jeremy, or Rashid, I'm trying to think of how to phrase that, an aggregate versus a I'm not gonna know what I'm gonna try to say there, but sometimes you'll wrap all of that like in sum or something, and that would be an aggregate formula. And there are rules when how to apply aggregates to LOD calculations. Once the LOD calculation is complete, it either can be aggregated further or it can't be. And either you guys, you have any way to articulate the rules around mixing? Like if we wanted to add this number to another fixed LOD, what rules would we need to follow to be mindful of that? We have a fixed, could we divide that by a single value? I think
Yes.
Sometimes you can.
You can. I'm trying to think of a scenario that would call for that. But you can. I mean, you can use them in calculations with very little restriction. You would not be able to use them across blends.
Blends are challenging, that's right. This is a great topic, and it's one that we should definitely explore in the future. It's probably also worth noting that if you do have topics that you think, merit more than just a couple of minutes of thought, please do send those questions to us. Put them on the community site. Get those questions to us, and we will devote time in a future session to present on it more deeply.
Hey, Rashid, I volunteered you to demo another one.
Sure. All right.
So Monica asked, is this method used, talking about LODs, used for visualizations where you have a high point and a low point as a boundary to see how a metric is doing over time as compared to those boundaries? What I was going to say is it can be used for that. It's more effective for sometimes comparing parts to a whole. So if you think of like, well, I thought this was supposed to be an escape from the misery of our current situation, being stuck at home from the virus. But in COVID-19 terms, it would be very helpful on a map visualization to understand whether your zip code or region has a higher infection rate than the state itself, right? So like, let me see where my hotspots truly are. So in Superstore terms, we could look at zip codes that have a higher profit margin than their state level profit margin and use that on color. Does that make sense, Rashid?
Yeah, but you'll have to kind of walk me through one more time because I think you're asking me to kind of do this in a map.
So if we show a zip code level map,
Mhm.
and we show the profit ratio for that zip code compared to the profit ratio when calculated at state, aka a fixed LOD. Just do throw that in like a filled map. There we go. Right, so let's just do state. Let's do state since it'll be cleaner. Let's do state versus country instead. Okay.
The profit ratio on color?
So create a calculation for profit ratio fixed to country region. And it'll just be, fixed to country region, sum of sales over sum of, or sum of profit over sum of sales. So what we're doing right now is we're calculating the overall profit ratio, ignoring anything that's in the view, right? So this is calculated above the level of the view, which is state. So this is the country profit ratio.
Let me drop down the color.
Cool. Well, we're gonna write one more calc that compares the two. So we're gonna compare profit ratio versus calc. So I want to see the states that are better or worse than the national profit ratio. Does that make sense?
Not really, but walk me through the calc.
So the calc would be profit ratio divided by calc. So you're gonna, is it good? What's it complaining about? Is one of them not aggregate?
Yeah. So with sum of profit ratio, no, profit ratio is the one that's aggregate.
Is it? I can't
The
remember.
calc is fixed. Yeah, the calc is fixed. So I mean, I can do the sum of calc.
Just do a max.
This is the error that I was thinking about, is you have to be cautious.
Yeah.
Or aware.
So with something that's calculated at that level, it's always the same. So you max min, you could even attra it. Anyway, that should work. So drop that on color. And then drop the other two metrics, calc and profit ratio, on your tooltip, just so we can show why it lights up that way. Okay, so hover over, so California is fine. So California as a state has a profit ratio of, hang on a second, 17% versus the calc profit. Will you change calc to a percent as well, Rashid? Apologies. That'll just make it a little easier to read. Okay, so the US profit ratio is 12.47%. That's the fixed LOD that we wrote that calculates profit ratio at the country level. California's profit ratio was 17%. We said that's better than the country, so we colored it blue based on the legend that we applied. So if you go to, is that Oklahoma that's orange? No, that's not Oklahoma, that's Colorado, duh. Colorado has a profit ratio of minus 20%, which ain't good. That is obviously well below the nationwide 12.47. So notice, no matter what state Rashid highlights, calc, or the US ratio, he smartly changed the name, says 12.47. No matter where he moves that cursor, that's the fixed LOD. So this is a scenario where it's nice to be able to calculate at a level above what we're displaying. You would not be able to do that on the fly in the visualization. That profit ratio calculation, as you can see, adjusts to the granularity of your view. So when he moves it to a different state, he gets the profit ratio calculated for that state. So South Dakota was 30, North Dakota's 25, Montana's 33. This type of view helps you see who's better or worse than the national calculation. It helps you compare the calculation at two different levels. This is a strong use case for LODs. Monica, I hope that helps a little bit. You can certainly use a fixed or exclude, include LOD for the scenario you outlined. In general, you should probably be able to use a min max as well, though.
Okay, great. So we have a couple more questions. We'll probably try to wrap up after these two. So Jeremy, if you would take a look at the first question and think about that for a minute. The second one I think is a little bit more straightforward. What is an action filter? And so Richard has asked us, what is an action filter? And Richard, I'm going to assume by that you mean we're talking about dashboard actions. And this is my personal favorite when it comes to the secret sauce of Tableau. Dashboard action ranks very high. Rashid, I'm sure you could demonstrate a dashboard action and how to build one pretty quickly.
Yep. Working on it right now.
Just to put you on the spot.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible because really, this is probably going to be a bad, ugly type of dashboard, but dashboard action. What is it? Well, in a nutshell, I like to think there's more than one type of dashboard action. There's, there's a highlight action, URL actions. I'll kind of come back to a highlight action because, again, there's a use case for it, and I do use it every now and again. URL action is as simple as it sounds. Like you click on something, and it literally takes you to that URL, and you can kind of embed certain data from your Tableau dashboard into the URL, kind of get sophisticated. Like if you had stock tickers in your data, you can embed the ticker ID into like some Yahoo Finance URL, so it would be switching which stock you're looking at on Yahoo or something like that. But to me, the most common filter is, at the end of the day, the most common dashboard action is the filter action. And the filter action is kind of one of those, when you see it, it makes total sense. Where in that, you can interact with one visualization that's going to impact the other. When I click on furniture, well, that did not work. Let's try that again. But what was supposed to happen was when I clicked on furniture, the subcategory dashboard was supposed to filter based upon that selection.
You did it on a menu rather than a select sheet.
Right, so let's try that one more time. All right, so once more, if I click on furniture, now what's going to happen is you see subcategory just filter to all of the records that were tied to furniture, all of the subcategories under furniture. This, to me, is the most popular type of dashboard action, and it's typically the most common type of dashboard action. And this is something that I think all of us, we use dashboard actions, filter actions, almost all of the time. This is much, much, much better, and I can't stress that enough, than quick filters, meaning that dashboard actions perform better. It's just better. I don't know how I can possibly articulate it, but there's a fundamental difference between the dashboard action to just show what's there or versus trying to do quick filters where you're filtering down to just the subcategories under, and performance-wise too, it's also better. So dashboard actions, to me, they help you interact one visualization to another visualization. And you can get really creative and sophisticated with some of your dashboard actions. But does that answer the question? At a high level, at least?
Richard, do you have any follow-up question on that? And while we give Richard a chance to respond in the chat, Rashid, I want to reinforce something you said. The quick filters, I typically try to reserve quick filters when I have something like more than 15 or 20 items. If I have a data source and it's got 1,000 projects or 1,000 entities, whatever in the list, and the client, they really, even though they have 1,000 items, they need to have the capability to find that one specific item, then okay, let's use a quick filter. Otherwise, when you're building your dashboard, you want to have many small atomic charts discussing each aspect of your data. So you may have a project list, you may have a chart that shows you how many projects are in each status. That would be one small chart. Think of each aspect of your data. And when there are 5, 10 items, that's a really great opportunity to build a small chart. And you also provide the user, when you provide that small chart of count of projects by status, you're giving something more than what you can get in a quick filter. In a quick filter, all you do is you see 7 statuses. But when you're displaying a bar chart and you see 7 statuses and you see that there's one red status and it's got 80% of your projects, well, there you go. You've provided your users some extra information that you could not get from a quick filter.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. You get more bang for your buck with the with the action filter at times.
Yeah, and to that point, when it comes to quick filters, I mean, and this is just one of those things that, to me, the best way to describe it is that quick filters are expensive, and I mean that from a performance perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't understand, when you start adding quick filters, every time you interact with a quick filter, in theory, what's happening is, and I'll bring back the subcategories to show you, what's happening is basically it's got to reload every time I make a selection. So behind the scenes, it's like there's a query that's running every time I interact with this quick filter. And that, from a performance perspective, is expensive. This could slow down your dashboard. When you have multiple quick filters and multiple options, and you're giving people the ability to kind of, because every one of these is basically like a requery. So, I mean, to William's point, if you can use dashboard actions, use dashboard actions. But if you have to use quick filters, one of the biggest things that I started doing right away, once I realized it, is that you want to use the show apply button. Because what that allows you to do is to say, I know I don't want these 6. It's not requerying right now. It's letting me do whatever I want. And then when I click apply, then one query just got ran. And this does help. If you have to use quick filters, I can't stress that enough, because this allows your users to interact with the quick filter without a query happening every single time they touch it. If that makes sense.
That's a great point, Rashid. It's literally the difference. In my experience, that apply button is literally the difference between a usable dashboard and an unusable dashboard. If you're working on Tableau Server and you have a large data set and you want to unclick 3 or 4 items, that requerying that Rashid is speaking to can take several seconds. And that, I think I've heard different people say that 12 seconds is the absolute maximum of any user feedback. And most of us would probably say it's more like 2 or 3 seconds. And it's very expensive if you have to wait to requery.
Yeah, so those quick filters, every time you make a change in the dashboard, whether you click them or not, they have to repopulate themselves, especially if you're using the show only relevant values. Anytime Rashid clicks into that dashboard, the quick filters are going to reprocess. That's a ton of extra queries on the fly. It adds up and kills your performance. I hope that covers action filters. Action filters are the magic that makes dashboards happen. The ability to slice and dice data across multiple views and charts, they are the true secret sauce to Tableau. And then expanding on that, there are now set actions and parameter actions as well. So the magic has continued to expand. I think Alyssa has added Chad as a speaker. Chad, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, we can talk through the question you put out there on LOD.
Yes, sir. I had sent a link to a dashboard I'm working on. I've got posted in Tableau Public.
Yep, I got it.
And yep. And so I was wondering what's the best way to retain rank when filtering through a dashboard action? Because it appears that maybe I need to work with sets versus LOD.
Rank, meaning like a descending order rank from highest to lowest.
Yes, if you're looking at the dashboard I have, that bottom right rank of overall ranking, I'd really like to see the rank of that merit badge in this case in the whole set of merit badges.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is when I choose a merit badge, it's ranking there within the merit badge you choose.
Yeah.
So it's ranking the badges earned in that one.
Yeah, so unfortunately an LOD is not going to help you there. The ranks are table calculations. LODs won't preserve those.
Jeremy, do you think, does this speak to the order of operations, where I've done this before where I had something ranked or indexed, and when I applied an action, it changed it. But if I added the action itself to the context filter, then the action would happen first. I think the action would happen first, and then that may not help it.
So
Does that
the
ring
table
bells?
calculation is always going to be last, pretty much, because it's a runtime calculation, right? It's gonna, with the table calculation to perform that rank, it is only going to process the data set that's visible to it. So it's after any type of filter.
Okay.
It might be an item where you can try to take the formula for the table calculation and treat it as a calculated field. So I'm 80% guessing on this.
So Chad, tell me a little bit about what you would want it to do when you click on one of the badges. I think I didn't quite follow you the first time.
Right. So to click on one of the badges.
Any of them?
Yes, any.
Yep.
So here, instead of the rank, right now it's ranking the number of merit badges for personal fitness. And what I would like to see is, where did personal fitness rank within all of the badges for the year 2015, 16, and so on?
Yeah.
There are about 150 badges. And so where, with its 52,499 merit badges earned in 2015, what rank did that put personal fitness in that year amongst all of the merit badges?
Gotcha. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're probably going to, so for something specific like that, you're probably going to need to calculate ranks in pre-processing steps rather
With
than
calculated.
dynamic. So
with
like a
calculated
Tableau
field.
prep kind of solution. When it's calculating ranks dynamically, it's going to, this action is going to filter the data set that is visible to the table calculation performing the rank, which means that it'll only rank within itself.
Okay.
By selecting this badge, we're limiting the data set available to the ranking function.
That's what I thought was happening with the set action that was being created through the dashboard action. So I didn't know if it was a dynamic set solution or some other.
Would an LOD be applicable? I mean, can you use rank as the aggregation function inside of the LOD? I don't know if rank is used as an aggregation function.
No, you can't mix them.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Chad, this is a really good question. We may just have to take it offline.
No, it's a good use case. There may be a way to achieve something similar with some hackiness and some set actions. LODs won't get you there in this case.
All right, I'll keep on looking for another solution then. I can mark that one off the list. Thank you, guys.
What's your favorite merit badge?
For me, it would have to be camping.
Camping, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Excellent.
This is a cool project. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at about a quarter after the hour. I want to thank Jeremy and Rashid. Thank you for speaking and sharing your expertise. I want to thank all of the participants, everyone who joined today. Thanks very much. Again, thanks to our partners at Tableau, Alyssa, Jordan, and Rasta for organizing this event and hosting us on their channel. Hope everyone has a great weekend and stay safe. Thanks for joining today. Jeremy, Rashid, anything you'd like to close with?
We're good. Just like you said, everyone stay safe and make sure you can come to our next meeting. I believe it's May 12th. Israel, one of our co-leads, gonna be sharing a whole lot of fun stuff about how he uses Tableau and Python. So good session.
And by come, Rashid means connect to your computer at the given time.
Well, I'll be there by myself. I'm going to go to Wells Fargo and hang out by myself. I'm going to social distance from all of them.
Yeah.
Live stream that.
Looks like this is going to be how it is for a while.
Okay. Thank you very much. Jeremy, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, I'm good. I've talked enough.
Okay, great. And go outside. Everyone go outside and enjoy this great weather by yourself. Thanks, Alyssa.
You guys have a nice day. Have a good weekend, guys.
Thank you.
Talk soon, friends.